Uh, and boom, welcome. We are live. This is a little bit unexpected. I was planning to do a 2.5 Oyajis tonight on Victor's channel, but Victor had a technical problem while he was either live streaming or I think he was recording a laundry video. He was momentarily distracted and apparently fell into a ditch. And caused himself some serious injuries requiring probably some stitches. So as a result of that entirely new type of technical issue, he is off at the hospital and I'm back here. Actually, a funny thing happened to me yesterday. I turned 50 years old, and it just happened that yeah, I had some friends who, a friend who had a birthday on the same day and we're doing an event in Okinawa. So I decided to go down there for 2 days, and had a good bit of fun down there. But so yeah, I just sort of got back and I've been scrambling since I got back to get topics together. And I don't really have all that much. I've got a few topics which I've put up, which I'm certainly happy to share through. But yeah, I am glad that we are doing this at the earlier time, even though I'm still definitely not in the rhythm yet of being properly prepared as I should be for talking at this time. But yeah, it is certainly a milestone. 50 years old. Who would have thought? I mean, I came to Japan, I was 23, and geez, even when I started YouTube, I think I was in my 20s. Was it 20 years? It kind of been 20 years. But you know what? 2006, it would have been about 30 or 31 probably. So I suppose, yeah, you know, especially doing probably regular weekly shows, 2.5 Oyajis and Tokyo Tonight for a long time now. There's actually, I could probably go back and actually see all sorts of different phases, make a pretty horrible time lapse. But yeah, I suppose I myself, I mean, I'm actually taking much more mindfully good care of myself lately. So in some ways, I'm in better shape than I've been in, you know, certainly the time I've been making YouTube. In fact, I'm pretty sure if I look at all the time that I've been making YouTube videos, I'm probably in the best shape I've been through that whole thing now. But that's partly because I need to take more mindful care of myself, and I'm doing that now. You know, it's part of that. But I also feel really lucky to live in a time when there's so much information now. It's so easy to get information about how to take proper care of yourself. And, you know, yeah, if you just care about it a little bit, you can do sort of amazing things now, actually. So I kind of, that's really, really cool. There's a lot of things that make this a really good time to be alive. And it certainly is true that whenever I meet people older than me, I meet a lot of people older than me that, like, I assume they're like in their early 30s or something like that. And I don't quite go for that, but there's certainly a thing that I think people are taking much better care of themselves nowadays. And that is pretty cool. That said, Victor did end up in a ditch today. So I suppose we all have to be careful. When I say he ended up in a ditch, that sounds actually a lot darker than I meant for it to sound. But yeah, he was alive and he did make it home. But yeah, that was anyway, definitely check out Victor's channel. He said he's absolutely going to post that. It's good. Talk about Japan vlogger drama. No, it's a new kind, and I do appreciate his dedication to finding new types of technical issues to have to interfere with our shows. I do hope that he is better, and I told him that. So, although we are going to continue alternating of doing Tokyo Tonight one week, or, you know, doing my own thing one week and doing 2.5 Oyajis on other weeks, that's going to start this week. It's going to start next week. What can you do? So I think he said that, was he motorcycling? I think he said he was walking, which kind of impressed me. But yeah. So that said, I haven't really had a lot of time to process topics. And I know that, for example, Dan H., you sent me a couple of suggestions, which I haven't had time to check properly. In fact, I was trying to do it before the show, but I had to do laundry and I had to, like, do all sorts of stuff. I ended up running around, including actually editing and uploading the winning MASH battle result, which was me 2 weeks in a row this time. But again, huge shout out to Sunny, because again, he's been, we're trying new things, like setting up these sort of collaborations where where it appears in our subscription feeds of all the contributing channels at the same time. And I think that really boosted the MASH battle this week. So it's nice to get another one, especially getting one without really battling so much as just going on a chill sort of a track. I thought, well, I don't know if this is really a battle track, but it sounds really nice and I like it. So I'm just going to post it. and it did really well. So I'm really happy about that. And it shows what a sophisticated tastes you all have. So thank you always for voting on the MASH battles. And thank you, Sonny, for keeping me company and keeping us doing this every week. It is, of course, MASH battle 26, not 25. That is a lot of weeks. Who knows? We could be here 80 years old, still MASH battling. And probably being younger and better looking than we are even now. I think that's, and possibly even with hair by that point. I would hope that somehow artificial intelligence develops some way. I mean, I actually, honestly, I realized that if I really wanted hair, I could like go to Turkey. I'm sure Sadiq could recommend some good places to go in terms of places to stay. And I know I could probably get the surgery and get it all. And I actually like the shape of my head. I'm very comfortable with my general outlook. So anyway, I am quite happy and comfortable with where I'm at. It is something I must admit, I think, oof, when people see me, who know me, or if they see my, there's something to be perceived as 50. But internally, I'm totally cool with it. It's a good time. So anyway, let's go into the topics. Dan H, hoping Victor is fine. Indeed, right here. Cobra Tenchi pointing out, here you have weird handles, but in the after party you have your regular ones. Maybe there's a YouTube channel setting or something. I should dig into this. I should actually ask. In fact, I don't know. I mean, Cobra Tenchi, if you're looking at YouTube, if you're at a computer right now while watching this, maybe in a different window, could you like ask, is there a setting in YouTube that causes the difference between chosen channel names versus the @mark handle names? I'd love to understand what the reason for this is, because I know that this is in YouTube as well as in my StreamYard thing. Maybe there's a setting that I can change, and I will do it. I'd appreciate if you'd help me with the on-the-fly technical support. But yeah, apparently is that YouTube trying to make it? They're trying to bring back, what was the name? They actually tried. They had an attempt at a Twitter type thing, which I even used longer than anybody else, but it never really worked out. Anyway, Sadiq, number one again, every week. Number one. Yes, congratulations on that. Number 328. Number 1, 328. I think we're getting into semantics here. DJ Sunnyside Up, fantastic hair there. And yes, indeed. Seriously, congrats. You made a really great track. And we got so many votes. Like, I don't know how many votes we got this week, but it was a lot. It was like 3 times more than we usually get. So that was really awesome. And I think they were all your fans. So that was that's really awesome. So thank you for that. Shubas made it in from Panama early, in fact, right on time. I was a little bit late because I was last minute running around all over the place here, but I hope you are enjoying a delicious cup of Panamanian coffee this fine Sunday morning where you are, while I am in the dark, wintry, not that wintry. Actually, it's still pretty nice actually in Tokyo. It's nicer in Okinawa, but it's pretty nice in Tokyo as well. It's like 15 degrees. It's pretty pleasant. Who else we got in here? We've got Lara is in here. Good evening, lovely people. How are you all? Asking. Sadiq answers first. Dan H, a quick second. Everybody saying hello to Lara. Got Tadom in here. Glad that you can make it. Great to have you along here in here along with everybody else. Got the time change right now. Yes, you have. Awesome. And I do appreciate, I know it's making it earlier, but particularly for people in the Americas. So I really appreciate people from that part of the world who can make it in here. Who else we got in here? We got Aaron. Aaron made it. And again, I'll see what I can do about the handles. But yabba dabba do indeed. Hello, great to have you in here. And also, yeah, thanks for the suggestions and stuff for topics. Certainly, we are going to build up a new... Victor, actually, we had a video lined up that we were going to comment on, but Victor reached out to the creator of it, and they were really stoked that we were going to do like a live video reaction and everything. They probably don't know us if they're really stoked that we're about to do a live reaction to their video. I think we're pretty nice people. By the way, big shout out to Jake Knowlton, old-time YouTuber, who's been a principal of a... was it elementary school or a preschool for a while? But I think he's about to start a new thing in Japan. But he's started making videos again lately, and he was nice enough to talk about... He did a Is Japan Cooked video the other day where he pretty much just gave his thoughts, which, I mean, he said I would love to do a reaction video one day, or one of his videos as well. The problem with that specific video, he said, wouldn't it be awesome if Hiko and Victor could do a reaction video of this video? The problem is I would agree with almost everything that he said. So, yes, Jake Knowlton, one, thank you for the shout out, and I enjoyed watching your vid. And two, if you want us to react, you have to say something really stupid. Like you have to, I'm not saying that you should eat Tide Pods. In fact, no one, you should not eat Tide Pods. But if you did, I would probably make a reaction video. So take from that what you will. No. No, don't eat Tide Pods. It's a bad idea. The Comedy Central video with the guy playing the president of the Tide Pod company is one of the funniest videos I've seen in a long time. Anyway, that's an old video, but yes, I'm sure we'll do that. And I'm really looking forward to engaging more and getting back into community stuff. Actually, starting with Victor ends up in ditch. I mean, I think he's become the news himself. So what can we do? Time for a cuppa, says Japan Monomura, the Japan House, otherwise Black Tengu. Definitely get a cuppa of some lovely Greek tea, I suppose. Very, very good. We have Supreme Host, boom, everybody say happy birthday. Thank you very much for all the birthday wishes. I don't really get that into it so much anymore, but yeah, it's cool. It's cool. Quinn Rankid, great to see you as always. I'm really glad that you could make it. We've got Yoni in boom moi. I said moi like it's French, but it's Finnish, so it's actually moi, right? I should say it properly. We've got Amrot 0073, belated. It's from yesterday. We're all good in here, so yes, indeed. Get well soon, Victor. Indeed. Hopefully, Victor. I don't know if Victor ever actually watches these, but he certainly, if you're seeing this, Victor, do get well soon. We need you alive. Very much. Yeah, go take care of that leg today, and we'll have even more topics. So I can't wait to see. Apparently, he was recording live at the time that the whole incident happened. So, in fact, hell, I should do a reaction video to Victor falling in the ditch. Actually, that'd be kind of fun. Well, that I'm laughing at people's misfortunes, but his misfortune is kind of funny, and I can't help laughing. So too long ago. For 50, says Shubis. Yes, what I would give to be 50 again. Well, yeah, well, happy birthday or whatever you're having, but yeah, glad that you can make it as always. Jane Motts, great to have you in here. It's Jane Motts, that's right. It's not Jan, actually. I read it as it's written there, but this is really where I wish that people could control their handle, so I definitely want to find a setting for that. Yoni again, that looks like some crazy finish. All the dots. I don't know. It feels like a set of Lego instructions, although that would be Danish, I suppose. I want to try to say this. I'm sure I'm going to mangle this, but I want to say it. The problem is I don't know what the R. I'm going to presume it's just R, like a Japanese R, and go hiva sintima paiva. I don't know if it's hiva or hiva. I'm going to say hiva. Hiva sintima paiva. 27 years in the blink of an eye, indeed. Do I feel any different? Asked Dan H. I really don't. I mean, I've definitely noticed you make adjustments, and probably, honestly, if you're over 25, even then you'll notice that, particularly when you hit 30, like what you used to eat, a few months ago, all of a sudden you put on weight more easily, and, you don't recover from exercise as easily. But on all those metrics, if anything, I feel like my body's kind of gotten a bit younger in the last 2 years. Being in better shape means I recover better and I feel better. But what I definitely know is I have to work much, much harder in order to pretty much just do what a 20-year-old would do, standing still and not trying any effort whatsoever. But yeah, no, I don't feel that. But I know that you don't take it for granted. I think that's the thing. I think that you could end up falling over in a ditch, canceling a live stream pretty much any time. And so you have to take extra care and not get too cocky about it. But there we go. Half a century, a novel by, oh God, don't say half a century. Don't fall. I think I've fallen. I've had the camera fall over before. In fact, I think I've caught the camera falling. So that was pretty good. Oh, Yuri the best. You made it in first. Sadiq acknowledging. Welcome, Keith. I know it's been it's always tough. It's tough there, but it's been a tough couple of weeks there. I hope that you are keeping well and safe. And honestly, I think anybody who's not like supporting you guys has something wrong with their brains. So really hope everything is good for you and that everything is good where you are. I'm really glad that you're joining, by the way. So great to have you in here. You're the best, as always. Falling is no good. Again, this is why you do weights, actually. Weights are great because they actually prevent you from getting injured from falls, which is how most people who end up in old person's homes, it's not like a gradual deterioration. It's like they're fine, they have a fall, and their bodies just get too old to recover. And this, this can happen to people like before their 70s. So it's a reason that, you sort of build up some strength there, which is something I'm doing more lately. Hence the guns. But yes, watch the carbs. I've been watching. Yeah, I've been watching the carbs. I know you don't get zero carbs. You need some carbs, but I've gone through my relationship with carbs has become a little bit complicated. But I've still definitely a soft spot in my heart for them. I had lasagna tonight, so I can't be doing too bad. Motorcycle shopping time. Was it a motorcycle crash? I mean, geez, that's horrible. Victor drank too much. Victor's not drinking lately. So yeah, it's actually, which is, and if he's on a motorcycle, I certainly hope not. No, it sounds like it was actually just not paying attention. It was literally the old YouTuber. He was briefly stunned by the appearance of his own face in the viewfinder, I believe. Dazzled him, and that's the theory I'm going with. In fact, again, I see all the elements of an excellent reaction video, so yeah, I've got to get into that. We're 20 minutes in, so I'm gonna race through the other introductions, and then we'll get into the topics that we have. Sainted Sir, great to have you as always, especially again appreciating all the people in America getting up early in the morning to join. We've got Eric, we've got Sadiq, we've definitely got Quint Ranked and Sainted Sir and others in here. So yes, indeed. Who else? What have we got else going here? Not in Japan, but Hiko did in New Zealand. What did I have in New Zealand? It helps with my running. It definitely does. The running helps. All of that stuff. Tide Pods. No, I don't want to incentivize people to seek out reactions from me in that way. But is it cooked? Japan is not cooked. But if it was, I wouldn't be planning on leaving the UK for that, says Danny H. It's not. I mean, it's always, every experience is so perceptive. Japan is always changing. By the way, should I give an opinion on this? I'll give an opinion on this because it's kind of my hot take. All these people, is Japan changing? I'm worried Japan is becoming too nationalist, or I'm worried that Japan is becoming too foreigner friendly. Japan is changing. I don't want all the foreigners going to Japan to change it. The reason that I came to Japan, the number one reason I came to Japan when I was just a baby with a glint in my eye and 23 years old, and the reason I came here, I've said this before, I grew up an army brat. I moved house every year. I've counted the number of houses I have lived in, including the current one, which I've lived in for actually nearly 10 years in the current house. So I actually, up to the point of when I was about 37 years old, I had lived in 37 houses in my lifetime. I like change. I like to be in a dynamic atmosphere. I like the fact that when I was a kid, I was always, my mum and my dad are from different countries. We always moved between different countries, and the change of scenery and people stimulates me. And one thing about New Zealand is it doesn't change very much, and you start to crave change. And so coming to Tokyo, what really got me quickly about Tokyo was Tokyo, for someone who needs to move somewhere else to get change all the time, Tokyo itself changes so quickly that you can just stand still in the middle of it, and it's just constantly changing faster than you can keep up with. You go to a neighborhood where you know all the restaurants, you know all the shops, and you can navigate. You go somewhere else and you come back 2 years later and you can't navigate the neighborhood anymore. I love that. I love the fact that Japan, and Tokyo in particular, is constantly changing. So is Japan changing? Hell yes, and that's why I'm here. That's what's great about it. That's the magic. Of course, Tokyo is just like New York is different to the rest of America, and Auckland is different to the rest of New Zealand. Tokyo is different to the rest of Japan. But the change, or trying to keep some sort of worried about polluting some sort of idealized image that you have of a place that doesn't really exist. It is the dynamism of Tokyo that keeps me here, and it is an awesome place. Japan is always cooked, and it is always not cooked, and it is always changing, and that's why I'm here doing a show talking about it every week. Lysander 45, you started watching at a weird time. I'm curious what that was. Reto-san, como vai? Good to have someone in from Brazil, another person. I don't actually, are you in Japan right now, or are you back in Brazil right now? But I am always happy to have you in here. Great to see you. We've got more people talking about the UK. I don't know anything about the UK. Thank you for the birthday wishes. Accelerating the Atomic Tom. I guess it'd be a Guten Morgen for you right now. Good to have people in from Germany. We've got Mathology 5710. Wow, I've got so many people in here. I really appreciate 31 viewers. Do say hello. I'm going to turbo boost and get into the topics. But we've got people voting. We've got people saying thank you. We've got everybody in here back in Brazil. Man, Brazil is a place I have had on. I back when I was a young strapping lad of just turned 20 years old, and I went to Spain. I came back via Argentina, but when I was in Spain, in Barcelona, and when I was in Argentina, I stayed in backpacker youth hostels that were full of Brazilians. And both in Barcelona and in Argentina, I completely fell in both separate locations for a Brazilian girl, different Brazilian girls in each location. And I came back from the trip more motivated to learn Portuguese than I did Spanish. And I've never been to Brazil, and I love the food and I love the people. And I have positive associations. So, yeah, I hope I make it there one day. And it's awesome that you are watching from there. Anyway, oh, thank you, Danny, DJ Sunny Side Up, for fixing the title. I had the wrong episode on it. Let's talk about the topics that we have. I've actually had a really, maybe even before we kick off, I don't have a lot of topics, but one thing that I did this week is I think I've talked about, I work in tech, and we are all being highly encouraged to use AI and generative AI for everything. And I've been very hands-on with using AI for vibe coding and trying to show other lawyers who are kind of scared of that sort of thing how easy it is and how to use it. And I had another just moment this week where I took I don't know what IDE stands for, but IDE is a kind of it's a tool that you use for editing code. Which I've done in a former life when I was a system engineer. And although I often use programs like ChatGPT to code, for example, just demo video games or translation tools or dictation tools and things like that, and show people how easy it is to say, make me a translation tool that does this, and the page looks like this, and it'll generate code, and you can save it and open up a page, and it's magical. You can now make apps for yourself. Thank you, Yasamito. Integrated development environment. So I use Visual Studio Basic, basically just for whenever I'm editing. And but one thing I've always I hadn't done yet is I hadn't plugged in an AI assistant, or basically embedded AI into the coding tool that I use. I didn't really know how it would work if I did it, or how to set it up, but I did that this week. And the immediate thing that I did with it was I used some work tools to create essentially a ChatGPT clone that uses a different model library that I'm allowed to use for my work. And it's crazy. I could, in the course of half an hour, build up a working ChatGPT, like with the interface where it remembers conversations, where I can change the appearance. I can have it memorize things and so on. And I could set this up super quickly. And yeah, I've seen another person at work just build an application that, no one would ever have been able to sort of do without like a lot of development time and developers before. That's good enough to use for personal use at work. And I think while I understand to some extent, whenever I have conversations with people about AI, most of the people that I really like, and we talk about AI stuff, including my love for Sora, for example, I've been thinking about this week. A lot, actually, because I'm trying to explain to people who are sort of not good with the technology why they really should do it. There's been a lot of talk about how everyone was told to go learn how to code. And that doesn't matter now because we don't need to code because we have Gen AI or whatever. And one, that's not true. You'll always be better at coding if using Gen AI for coding if you know how coding works, because you'll know how to fix it and recognize what's not working right and know what's possible to do. But even more than that, the real skill, I think, right now, if you've got kids and you're worried about what should they be studying or what are the most important skills, I actually think that the skills that I've learned as a lawyer are really great for generative AI. It's really counterintuitive. Engineers get really frustrated with generative AI because it doesn't do exactly what you want it to do necessarily. You have to sort of steer it and guide it and have conversations with it. But essentially, the skills that become most important are one, creativity, the ability to just come up with. When you can do anything, the hardest thing for a painter is to work with a blank sheet of canvas with no, coming up with sort of a direction to move in is very hard. So creativity is important. Second thing is logic, having the ability to think things through in a sequence which would make sense to essentially to a machine. But it's kind of like a young person, essentially, that you're talking to all the time. And you have to spell things out without leaving gaps or anything like that in a way that's logical that will allow it to sort of achieve the task. So you need to be able to articulate yourself clearly and logically. And the third part is you have to be really clear and good at explaining things clearly, which is, again, being good with language. It comes down to being, really good at being creative, logical, and expressing yourself in an articulate way through language. And these are skills that actually are typically seen as soft skills. These are things that philosophy majors and law students and so on are associated with. And to be good in IT, you've always had to be sort of maths and science and sort of straight and logical. But I really think that to me, it's really exciting that the skills that I invested in have suddenly become really great tools for doing really amazing things right now with this new technology. And this is where when I use Sora, and when I did the intro the other day, and I saw some people, I put on the Sora intro, and some people liked it, and some people said, "Ooh, AI." One I do remember, one you think about that. First of all, when Yellow Magic Orchestra (YMO), when they did their first concerts in the UK, some of the reviews said that they didn't know who was playing what, whether it was the people playing these using computers hooked up to keyboards. They felt like the computers somehow using computers was cheating, and the computers must have been generating the instruments, and the people were just performatively moving around it, rather than that the people could be controlling it. People were uncomfortable with the image of people using computers to help make music. And then when Tron became the first movie to use computer generated special effects. And they were prohibited from the special effects category of the Oscars because people felt like people were very uncomfortable with the idea of using computers to help with special effects when Tron came out. And so the first movie ever to use computer generated special effects was banned from the Oscars because they felt like that's not real creativity. That's just people steering a computer that's doing all the work. They really thought it was Gen AI the same way that people think of Gen AI today, at least at the time. It was like it was cheating. And now with this thing, I get the AI slop thing, and I don't. Of course, you can tell a generative AI, "Hey, make me an amazing video," and it will, without any creative input whatsoever, and it'll just generate a video, and you'll get lots of slop like that. And most of the video on Sora is frankly horrible looking slop. But I also find a lot of amazing content, and what I love about it is, one, there are people that genuinely have creative images that they try, and this is what I use it for. I think of images in my head that I could not realize myself that I can try to express through this tool. So one, you've got to have the creativity to have good ideas of things to express. And two, you've got to be really logical and articulate about how you express it in order to get a good result. And this is where when I see videos that have good results that are steered and controlled, reading the prompts is like studying the techniques that people have done. And it's not like code. It's not like there's a rule that you can follow that will always work necessarily. But you can sort of see how people explain themselves really logically. It's actually you're using language in order to control this AI. And I think that what's really great about even for all the people might say it's useless crap that wastes water, but I think what it is it's teaching you to be creative and articulate and logical in a way that uses this technology really well, and in a way that I can use it to actually improve my work. And I think that our kids and so on, the ability to do those three things together, and however they want to do it, as art students, as art history students, I think is writing essays explaining art throughout history. I mean, I used to be an art history student. These are the skills that are actually going to be important. Again, we could turn out to be wrong about that as well, but I'm very excited about that anyway. So I don't know. I've had a lot of conversations, and I've just had a few more epiphanies about AI this week using it that have just blown my own mind with my own ability to now do things I could never do before. And while I know there's a lot of doomerism and a lot of sort of negative, there's always negative. Talk about things is generally always negative, but I'm incredibly excited by what I'm able to do with this. And I, and wanting to dive into it. And it doesn't mean you have to agree with me or think the same way or do the same thing. But I tell you what, I am probably going to use more of these tools just because I find it so interesting and exciting myself. First CG was, so Sadiq, perhaps I've seen all the talk about what happened with Tron, and perhaps the way I explained it isn't correct, but I know that Tron was not given a special effects Oscar because it was considered that somehow using computers to generate graphics in a motion picture was considered cheating. I'm not sure what the distinction is, but I feel like people are always a little bit perturbed seeing machines take over tasks that traditionally people have done by hand. And I think that, by the way, human crafted work is always going to be more highly valued and respected. But there again, I don't think we should limit ourselves for the sake of art. I think you can be an artisan with digital media as well. In fact, I think that's now completely accepted by everybody, that you can be great at computer graphics using computer editing tools. I mean, no one really considers digital art, to not be a skill anymore. It's just when you're doing it in a more easy, with more sort of help over time that it becomes a problem. Anyway, I don't know. It's a thought that's been bouncing around my head that I wanted to share. In terms of what we have tonight, the big topic this week for Japan is Sanae Takaichi has pissed off China. So apparently what happened is, frankly, it was kind of an innocuous statement. But what happened was in the Japanese parliament, where politicians never used to have to explain anything, they have, oh, by the way, Brad Ford, Australia, welcome into the chat. They have a question and answer time, which is pretty much what in the British Parliament and a lot of parliaments, they're usually designated times where people can basically try to score points by pestering the government with questions to explain themselves. And they often split the questions 50% between the current government, where they can say, tell us how wonderful, tell us how there are no problems in Japan, what a wonderful job that you're doing. And they'll answer, well, I'm so glad that you asked me that. Here are all the wonderful things we're doing. And then the opposition will try to, score points by doing the opposite. And in question time, part of the role of the new prime minister is to sit there and be the leader answering these questions. Sometimes she'll ask other people to answer questions. But someone asked, and I don't know who asked the question actually, but it was kind of frankly, it was kind of the question which really caused the problems in some ways. Basically, maybe they've got it in here. Well, this is really the response. But what happened was someone asked her, Japan has added a clause to its law which kind of challenges the constitution, where Japan is a country that's renounced the right to use war to solve problems and to have land, sea or air military forces. It does have, of course, self-defense forces, and it does reserve the right to use war to defend itself in self-defense. However, it amended the SDF law about 20 years ago to say that in the event of a conflict which may endanger the existence of Japan as a country, it is permitted to engage in collective self-defense. It will actually help out America and other countries where such a conflict might endanger Japan itself. And it's generally kind of been accepted that what that is really about is that if there were to be a conflict either involving the United States and the forces stationed in Okinawa, for example, with North Korea, or frankly, a lot more likely in Taiwan, and the United States decided to get involved with it, and that U.S. involvement were likely to result in China attacking Okinawa, for example, the U.S. bases in Okinawa, there is this idea that Japan would cooperate with those U.S. forces defending Taiwan as part of its own self-defense. It could participate in collective self-defense with the United States against China in the case where it invades Taiwan, if it felt like there was a high risk that China might retaliate by attacking those foreign forces, or basically might attack Okinawa and other places in Japan. And this was the reason that they passed this law allowing collective self-defense. Although they never said directly, they were always very careful because, of course, most of Japan's manufacturing happens in China. It tries to keep some good relations with China, but So they asked in Parliament, can you confirm that a conflict involving China militarily invading Taiwan might result in the right of collective self-defense being triggered? And she said, well, if there were a conflict that were to endanger the existence of Japan, that might be a situation. That would typically be a situation that we would consider the law as triggered. And then they said, you mean like, for example, an invasion of Taiwan? And she said, yeah, that could be it. That was a little bit too on the nose for China. Japan always tries to be very subtle about how it says it. She probably should have said, well, any country that engages in an invasion of a neighbor right beside Japan, whose name starts with Chai and ends with Na, they could be more indirect about it. But they asked her directly, oh, do you mean if China invades Taiwan? And she said, yeah, why not? And why not? It's the truth. What's the problem? Well, apparently the problem is that China condemns Japan's extremely inappropriate remarks, and they've been pretty much freaking out all of this week. The consulate, the Chinese consul in Osaka, not the ambassador, but because it's Osaka, so he's like the number two. He's the consul in Osaka. He said that he put some sort of statement on social media saying Japan should be very careful about the things that it says or she actually said that the prime minister should be careful of what she says, because the head that sticks up above the turret gets chopped off. And everyone said, so Chinese consul to Japan, are you recommending the beheading of the Japanese prime minister? Frankly, for saying nothing other than complete common sense. And he didn't respond, and the Chinese foreign ministry didn't respond. In fact, they decided, rather than respond to the Chinese consuls calling for the beheading of the Japanese prime minister, they decided to say, this is Japan making trouble, and we recommend that all Chinese cancel their vacations to Japan, and that students consider not going to Japan anymore either. To which probably most Japanese nationalists were, yay, we should have asked her this question ages ago. It really, it's just designed to push it aside the very positive human level relations. There are so many Chinese tourists coming to Japan right now who have such positive images of Japan because of this. I'm sure that in Chinese local media, this is kind of Japan advocating for 19th century style aggression against China, when that's not what it is. They're saying if China turns into a crazy aggressor state and invades Taiwan, and in a way that it would make it likely that it would also attack Japan, which, by the way, includes islands that Japan is disputing with China between them, that it would cooperate with America to defend itself. And how is that anything other than common sense? But China's gone into full freak out, punished Japan for telling us that we can't invade and kill all the people that we want within the territory that we consider as ours, even if it's not really ours. Again, in some ways you could say it appears that the Japanese prime minister screwed up on this, but frankly, she just gave what she said. She thought that it was frankly giving the line that's always been the case with this law, and wasn't controversial. It was just that in the question time in Parliament, they made her spell it out maybe a little bit more than was necessary or usual. And I don't know if they did this deliberately to cause conflict with China, but that's where it ended up. These things can get ugly. Like, seriously, we've had less than 10 years ago now, when there was a dispute over the disputed islands between, which are very close to Taiwan, between Japan and China, that, Japanese people were attacked in China. Japanese factories were set on fire. Shopping malls were set on fire. There were full-on, racist, violent, state-sponsored attacks on Japan and Japanese people in China. So, when the government there decides that they want to, unleash people, and they typically do it when the economy is not good over there, and Chinese economy has been having a tough time with the US sanctions and everything, and it was a similar time. It was around 2009, I think, last time this happened, which was after the global banking shock. They decided it's time to turn the vent of to make sure that social discontent doesn't aim at the Chinese Communist Party, and they said, hey, go for it, set Japanese things on fire. And I'm worried a little bit that we could be doing that again, or that China could be doing that again, taking advantage of this. I don't really think it was a mess up by the prime minister, but there again, we all sort of know that China be crazy. So you sort of don't want to go there pretty much with this sort of thing. But anyway, that is what's been happening, and that's been going all week. And, again, the idea that it's somehow forbidden to say that China shouldn't, wage war against and invade and kill probably tens of thousands of innocent people in, frankly, what it claims as part of itself, but it is not. China does not have control over Taiwan, and Taiwan exists and operates as a separate sovereign entity with a government that is not under the control of China. And just for simple national pride that they'd go and do that. Of course, we have another situation like that at the moment with Russia and Ukraine. And China's building up, alarmingly, the ability to go and pretty much do the same thing, maybe do it more effectively, actually, in some ways than Russians done it, but it would result in huge, meaningless loss of life. It would disrupt the global economy. The most valuable company in the world right now, NVIDIA, is a Taiwanese company. The global economy is dependent on those chips being made in Taiwan right now. And the idea that that you can't even suggest that invading that country would be bad, and that you have to go through all of this when you do that is, kind of messed up. So. Fundamentally, I think that the Japanese prime minister was right on this, but there again, needlessly, triggering them. On the one hand, you shouldn't, this is a horrible word to use given the historical context of it, but you shouldn't kowtow per se. You shouldn't bow down necessarily to China overly on this, but this is something that you know what's going to happen. And you don't have to be so direct about it. But anyway, yeah, NVIDIA is actually moving, or TSMC, which actually manufactures a lot of chips for NVIDIA, is setting up plants in the United States. Although this goes both ways. They go over there, but then, you know, they're like with the United States deporting all the people at the Hyundai battery factory. And then Trump lately has been defending, oh, we needed to have those workers here to set it up. So, you know, but his agencies went and arrested everybody that was setting up the factories. And, you know, there's a lot of issues with trying to move overseas workers into America at a time that a lot of people in America, there seems to be conflict within the government whether America should be trying to do everything on its own without any outside help. But they're building factories in Kyushu as well. So they are trying to distribute their manufacturing capacity outside of Taiwan. But there again, it's probably in Taiwan's interest as well to keep all that capacity there so that the world is interested in helping defend them if anything happens. But there we go. And yeah, you know, I mean, why not? He's collecting extra taxes, inflation causing taxes from everybody in order to, you know, for everything that's imported. So why not give some of it back? It's actually not a bad idea. There again, I mean, the fact that Americans have voted to have essentially huge taxes imposed on them, and that he's telling them, no, you're not paying taxes. The foreign governments are paying them, even though you're paying for them. You know, it's really. I'm not going to get into U.S. politics, however, though. But yeah, they are looking at distributing, and it is a good idea to distribute production to the U.S. and other places, absolutely. But at the same time, we should do the right thing and help Taiwan deter. You know, the point is you don't want to have a fight with China. You want to make it clear enough to China that if they have a fight, it'll be so costly to them it's not worth it, which results in everything staying in peace. And that's what's been working in this part of the world for about 80 years. And China's trying to change that equation with such a huge military buildup that they can't be deterred. At a time when America doesn't seem so motivated to deter, you know, they're not really they're showing very little will to support the NATO alliance at the moment in Europe. Granted, a lot of NATO members have not been pulling their weight and have been asking for that as well. But at a time, frankly, where America is what holds the security and the peace and the prosperity of this part of the world, including Japan together, you know, showing any kind of flinching on resolve to be willing to engage militarily with countries like China if they do something like invade Taiwan, you know, tilts it towards making it a feasible option for China to do. And that worries me. I actually really appreciate those American. A lot of people, it's a thankless job being in the military. Well, frankly, it's a thankless job just being American. Everyone likes to rag on America, but Japan, this country wouldn't be the amazing, awesome, safe, wonderful place it is if it weren't for those American forces in Okinawa and other places in Japan, standing there, stopping bad things from happening. And this idea, if they left, this whole place would go to hell in an afternoon. And this is a reminder of that. China is crazy, and literally the only thing holding it back at the moment are those U.S. forces, and I appreciate those forces. So anyway, that is a thing. NATO is expansionist. Now, is it expansionist if people like when Finland and Sweden begged to be let into NATO? Was that NATO expanding? Or is that just, you know, a bunch of countries afraid of getting, you know, having to deal with a hyper-aggressive Russia? When it's a collective self-defense club, you know, it is an association of people not wanting to not wanting to be invaded by Russia. I don't think that's expansionist. So, you know, nobody forced Finland to join. They've been asked to join for, you know, decades. They mysteriously wanted to join recently, and I don't think that was an expansionist move. Anyway, that's the first story. We've got 10 minutes left. We have plenty of time. Another feminist take that Takaichi is not a friend to feminists, which she probably isn't, to be fair. However, Wada Shizuka, the person who wrote the article, is basically saying that she is feminism as a labor issue. She's not really pro-labor enough, and hence through not being pro-labor enough, she's not pro-woman enough. Yet the left and pro-labor parties in Japan, including socialist government, Japan has had socialist governments, and none of them ever appointed a woman, or even appointed the amount of women cabinet ministers that the LDP does. So I don't agree necessarily that you can't be a real feminist if you are a woman, if you are not a socialist, which is the thrust of this Nippon.com article and the reason that I disagree with it. But yeah, yeah. I don't know. Feminism is a really, really tough topic. There was something I was going to share, and I can't remember. I didn't find the article to share, but there was something earlier today. I remembered one thing I loved about my law degree was feminist perspectives on law, and my teacher, who was a famous feminist activist in New Zealand, but really, really smart and a really, really great lecturer, and I love the fact that she would be willing to show, all the sides, give them equal sort of billing, and be open to sharing the flaws and all perspectives. And I think one that I really remember is how there are the feminist perspectives for and against surrogacy, paying someone to have a baby for you, and prostitution. The feminist argument against prostitution, which makes complete sense and is actually the logic held in a lot of countries, is that it is men with money using money and their economic power to exploit women's reproductive systems and their biology for the benefit of men, that exploits the superior power position that men have over women, and hence recognizing prostitution is wrong, because it would embed that sort of power, that position of women, of subjugating women based on inferior economic position. Very compelling. The next day we did the same thing, feminist position supporting prostitution. And this is when you're debating what sort of laws you should have in countries. And this debate goes both ways. I think in New Zealand this was legalized not long after this debate happened. The pro-feminist argument for allowing prostitution is, men who have traditionally controlled the economy in all different ways, the one thing that, not saying that men can't be prostitutes, but essentially, if you have this idea that the one thing that men can't have without women, which is access to women's biology and something that they can control, trying to outlaw the ability of women to gain any form of economic independence or power or autonomy through the advantages that their biology provides and the power it gives them over men. Banning prostitution and requiring that they give it up for free is a way of subjugating women and preventing women from achieving their own autonomy. I would go to both, and they're both completely compelling, polar opposite perspectives on, but both unquestionably valid feminist perspectives that go the opposite on the same thing. And I think when people criticize the Prime Minister for not being a feminist, say because she's not leftist enough, I haven't really heard a compelling feminist endorsement of Takaichi, but I do find I do find arguments that you have to be a socialist in order to be valid as a feminist. I'm sure you can make completely cogent arguments for it, but I don't think it's the only valid perspective within that. I mean, one thing I certainly learned when you learn feminist perspectives on legislation, law, and politics, is that there are valid, multiple contradictory at the same time positions, as there are on, and it's not just feminism. Again, there's all sorts of different things like that. But I always found it really, really cool to be completely persuaded one day about one perspective as being like the right perspective if you think from this way, and then the next day be completely persuaded of the opposite thing, and realizing they can both be pretty coherent. I'm not sure. She's clearly not, she hasn't gotten to where she is self-promoting herself. She hasn't held herself out as a feminist. But I do think that although she's, most of her vociferous opponents, who are people even within her own party, she is far right-wing even within the LDP, are painting her as the enemy of women. I think that's too extreme a position, and I think it doesn't give I think you've got to take the nuance and you've got to look at what she does. And this is what I think the case was with Abe as well. People were so busy hating him that they didn't pay attention to the things that he was doing. And I think you've got to actually look at what people do. And I think that she's smart enough that I'm really curious to see what she does. And the fact that she's appointed 8 women vice ministers is possibly the most feminist thing ever done by any Japanese government. While there are cabinets that have appointed more women as cabinet ministers, They did so without any women vice ministers, which meant they didn't have any of the experience necessary to be effective ministers. They were set up for failure. And there was no investment in creating the ground for future leaders in the way that Takaichi is doing. So, yeah, and by the P. Morton 7960, we talked about surrogacy and whether it should be legal for a good couple of weeks, and it was exactly the same sort of arguments as I just said about prostitution, actually, as well. And same thing. Yeah, and it's kind of funny. Every argument that you hear about it and going in all different contradictory directions are completely compelling, and it really opened my eyes to not just and what I've learned from it, although I raised my hand and made some comments at the time, is I would never claim to be expressing a feminist position myself, but I also know that there are definitely internally extremely contradictory and vicious disagreements within, and not just within feminism, but within all other sorts of schools of things as well. And it's super interesting anyway. The cult involvement, well, obviously it got him to the extent that the person who killed him was upset with the cult involvement thing. Of all the problems with Abe that people had with Abe, I would say his ties to cults in Japan, which, by the way, every politician in the LDP has had ties to the same parties and the same cults over the same number of years. I would say it was like down in the single-digit percentages. It was a very minor thing. I saw Dogen. My critique of Dogen's video was that I think he overplayed the importance of the ties to the Moonies. Make no mistake, I don't think it's a light thing. I think that they shouldn't have had those ties. But for example, think about the ties to Komeito, which without going too deep into what Komeito is, but it's a major legitimized political force that uses members of a religion to do party campaigning, and that was in a coalition with the LDP. They had an official, public, out in the open relationship with a religious group that did campaigning for the LDP, and they did the same thing with the Moonies and hell, and there's a lot of other groups in Japan that sort of aspire to do the same sorts of things that have similar sort of backgrounds. Anyway, Russia, I'm sure the 30 people who have been subject to Russian sanctions are going to be very, very upset that their summer vacations in the north of Russia, they're going to have to find somewhere else to go for their vacations. I don't know. I feel like it would be more of a sanction to be told that you have to go to Russia than to be told that you can't go to Russia. But that said, I mean, Russia is literally occupying 4 Japanese islands, inhabited Japanese islands that they ethnically cleansed at the end of World War II, and people want to go back to. So the idea that Japan is supporting Ukraine too much, and Russia is very upset and is sanctioning Japanese people. Yeah, I actually realize sometimes when I do the after party, they've got something with copyright law in Russia, and it says that your stream is fine, but just so that people in Russia can't watch it. That makes me sad. I would actually love for people in Russia to be able to watch my stream, but if the Russian government, do I feel particularly punished by the Russian government for my DJ streams not being available in Russia? Well, not really. Anyway, this is a big deal. Suica, which I love, which I actually have embedded in a chip in my phone. It has a 20,000 yen limit, and you can add up to 10,000 yen at a time, but that means I top it up with 10,000 yen every time it gets below 10,000 yen balance. And it's kind of annoying that you have to keep doing that, and you can't buy very good quick purchases, big purchases. But the great thing is that you just tap it and it works right away. It works quickly enough that you can tap it as you go through a ticket gate at a train station without stopping. It works faster than credit card taps, chip technology. It works really, really well, and it predates that technology as well. However, it's always been a limitation that you can't put very much money on it. However, they are lifting that limitation later this year. So while they're focusing here that they are replacing the penguin logo with a new logo that is not yet a new mascot that is not yet clear what that is going to be, although I suggest that since the limit is going to go up from 20,000 yen to something like 350,000 yen, like $3,500, right, it will go up to something like 300,000 yen. Which means you'll actually be able to use it to go to restaurants, like for a nice meal at a restaurant, or for shopping, and be able to tap with a Suica card to pay. And which people are already using PayPay and other things for at the moment in Japan. That'll be pretty awesome. So I suggest they use Scrooge McDuck as the new logo for Suica, because you can just be diving through money with your Suica cards, and they are pretty awesome. And the fact it's in my phone and I can just tap my phone and get that to work. So yeah, the apparently the penguin will be replaced, but we don't know what with yet, I believe. It's a cute logo, but yeah, they can do it. They apparently JR said that they will be graduating the mascot, which is an expression that they use for when idols leave the group because they get too old. In Japan, I think it means that they will be taking them out on a drive into the countryside and not coming back with them. Taking Old Yeller out back, I believe, is what they mean by graduating in this case. But yeah, we'll see what they do with the new one. As well, the new logo, the new mascot will symbolize that you'll actually be able to use it for big money. So we'll see. Olympics are considering allowing winter sports during the Winter Olympics. Apparently, a lot of people don't like that because they love that it's associated with skating and ice and snow-related sports, which means only like 20 countries can meaningfully participate, even though most of the world does have winter sports that they play in winter. So there's a suggestion of changing. I think that's a good idea. I think it would be great to have football, for example, a winter sport be played in the Winter Olympics. This is interesting with all the bear attacks getting, lately the increase in bear attacks on people and property in Japan are getting so much attention. There's a bit of hysteria about it. They've called in the military and authorized them to be able to shoot bears if they need to, because there are so many of them. They've warned if you are going to go autumn leaf viewing in the mountains, that you may be attacked by bears. There are scary bear signs like this. If you want to go looking at leaves, beware of bears. They have to make a horror movie about this at some point. And they've brought in these life shield containers, these bear shelters for people to run into. And I must say, while houses in Japan are designed to withstand earthquakes, typhoons, tsunamis, landslides, they do a lot, nuclear accidents. You have to prepare for everything. But yeah, here's another one now. They also have to build them to be survive bear attacks. Sorry, give me one moment. Pardon me, my nose got really itchy. I don't know why it vibrates a bit sometimes when I talk, when I do this. But anyway, sorry, I just had to scratch. But yeah, anyway, look out for the bears. Japan is going to seek UNESCO World Heritage status for sitting in hot springs because no one has ever figured that out before. Of course, onsen culture is kind of special. It is kind of, there's certainly a Japanese take on sitting in onsens. But I don't know that is hot spring culture in Japan really worth its own UNESCO designation? I mean, we are rapidly approaching Japan's love for the Four Seasons as being something with UNESCO World Heritage. I mean, honestly, you know what? If you make that argument that the way it's not that sitting in hot springs is unique to Japan, it's the way that Japanese do it, and you'd have a point there. And you could also say that it's not having four seasons. Lots of places have four seasons, but the way that Japan has four seasons, the Japanese mark the four seasons, there is also an argument as well that Japanese themselves would make that they should apply for special World Cultural Heritage status for the Japanese Four Seasons. And if that is the case, and I submit that Japan should just skip to the end point of this, when you think about how everyone in the world takes a shit, but when Japanese people take a shit on a Japanese Toto washlet, I mean, that is actually more of a special and unique way of taking a shit than Japanese, for example, sitting in a hot spring. Everyone sits in hot springs. I mean, Japanese, it's different, but it's not that different. It's not like they have water jets going up them. When you have four seasons, everywhere has four seasons to some extent. I think that taking a shit is actually more worthy of Japan applying for UNESCO World Heritage status than sitting in hot springs or Four Seasons, which I think they should also apply for. And since Japan seems to apply for UNESCO World Heritage for everything, I think they should just skip straight to that. Anyway, that is my suggestion. What are you going to do? China is urging people not to come to Japan anymore, and for school students to reconsider studying in Japan over security concerns. It's literally like, hey, Chinese people, we think you should reconsider going to Japan, which is a wonderful place, but we're planning to punch someone in the face. And they said that's a bad idea. So for your security, you should not go. I don't know. Where is the logic? all of that. So yeah, we've had bad weather. Weather is finally getting to be normal fall, normal autumn weather here. It's getting a bit sunnier. It still was actually remarkably warm, but we've had a long run of really, really gloomy weather in Tokyo. Normally this is the best time of year. It's like sunny every day. It has not been like that, but it is getting to be like that now. So I certainly recommend, if you're able to come to Japan, it's still cheap. It's great weather. Come see it. And if you're in Tokyo, feel free to hit me up and go out for lunch or something like that. Sometimes it's always fun to do. But anyway, I think that's all the topics that I had. I'm exactly on 60 minutes. Look at that. I am going to take a couple of minutes to set up the after party because I'm not set up at all. I'm not prepared. It's going to take me a couple of minutes. But if you jump over into the after party that is set up on the Tokyo Digital Crew channel, remember also check out the live making of the Winning Mash battle this week that I did, or all the other Winning Mash battles that actually Sunny has been doing more than me. Come in with your requests and listen to some music if that's your thing. If it's not, join me next week where we will be back, probably on Victor's channel, probably doing 2.5 Oyajis if one of us doesn't end up in another sort of a ditch or chasing a squirrel or something like that. But I really appreciate you all keeping me company like this every week. Not so interactive this week, actually, because again, I was scrambling a little bit. But I do appreciate you guys keeping me company. So yeah, join me for the after party. Whitehall-san 5391. Great to see you. We'll see if we can figure out what to do about getting these name handles back to normal. But in the meantime, have a good week, everybody. See you next week, and boom, peace. I will get the link for the after party. I think probably Aaron is off doing something much more important. Give me a sec. Let me come over here, and link to the after party is, it's behind the camera. If you're on YouTube. Okay, boom, boom. Will it let me post the link? Come on, I'm the owner of this channel. I can do it. There we go. There is the link to the after party. So come and join me at the after party. I'll see you all later. Boom, peace.